The tide's coming in right now. We're gonna get swept away pretty soon. And part of me thinks that's all right. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. Almost like we have no place, but we follow the rhythmic laws of the universe just to find some sustainability, find some goodness in our life, in our heart, being. But we are one with all things too. We claim to all be one, and perhaps we're one with other humans, but perhaps we're one with molecules of water, light particles. It seems dark, but it's light enough that we're glowing right now. It's hard to tell if the silhouette is our true self. All these age lines define who we are. Like lines of poetry quoted across our face. Scars and stars of outer space. But we can come to the beach and understand by digging these clams in the sand that families reside beneath. We don't own their lives, but they offer themselves to us. We can't abuse their trust.
During one of the great cataclysmic floods that swept over the islands thousands of years ago, we found ourselves adrift in 5 canoes, the last remaining survivors that survived that flood. And there was 5 canoes in the middle of the Hecate Straits between Haida Gwaii and the mainland. The canoes split up. 2 went to Kitkatla and 3 went to Haida Gwaii. And we have survived many other floods after that.
So the villages were created all the ways up the west coast into places like Gaugaya, which is Yaklanis territory, with Yaklanis Bay, and the village of Tsithlanjau, which is Devil's Club. Everywhere has been occupied and lived in and utilized consecutively for thousands of years, all the ways up. Villages here, 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 there, and there. So as each village collapsed, and there were very few survivors from every village, of course the missionaries were there encouraging everyone to move in to 2 villages. So the south end of the islands, the people moved into Skidegate, and in the north end of the islands, the people moved into Old Masset.
We live in the hollow bones of what was once a pretty busy place. The army came in, they had a lot of people, they had their own store we couldn't go to. So now it seems like there's a lot of buildings around, a lot of things to do on the surface, but really it's borderline ghosting, mostly for resource extraction. The military, they built a huge complex here. It's called the barracks, swimming pool, bowling alley, weightlifting, housing, built with asbestos, torn all down. They couldn't afford to keep it all. Now we get to deal with all of this. Whatever's left. Like the ancient ruins. What we're missing.
There's the rings on there that you're going to look at from the bear on the bottom. And the rings are potlatches they had, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Approximately 6 potlatches they had during their lifetime, long ago. That's what became of it. The memory is there. The memory of the ancient tribe of Haida, the ancient clan that resided here.
And I remember as far back as I can remember, even being 5 years old, and hearing the kinds of conversations that happened in my household, just between my dad and my mom, and how they would talk about things like land title and land rights and, whose land is it anyway. She always talked to us about Haida language, and she always talked to us about how we're so connected to our mothers and our nannies, our grandmothers, how we've been living on this land for like thousands of years, and that really anchored us, and I remember just growing up, and my aunties would always ask us, oh, where are you from, and what clan are you, are you eagle or raven, and all those little questions over such a long period of time. It really embeds it in yourself, saying it over and over. I'm from Haida Gwaii, I'm Yuklanis, and it really solidifies it for yourself, that kind of spiritual anchor into this land.
So then the change happened, and then I guess religion was a big part of it, or what the people thought religion was a big part of it. And then captains, people with wealth, we wanted those names because we wanted something equivalent to what we were, We didn't want to be swept. I don't know. You could see the naming up and down the coast, just the flippant naming of natives. How come there's so many Johnnies? I can't understand your name. You're called Johnny,
This area here, I love. It's so amazing. It's freed me as a person from the anger that I had as a child of not understanding what was taken. And now all of this has given that back. And that is a freedom to be myself, to be one with creation, to be one with the love that we are born of. And that's Creator's love. In my life, I have this struggle of accepting that Creator is a part of my life, and Creator sent all these incredible people to me that have taught me different things of these plants, of this area, and of myself. And a lot of those teachers are young children, and they're older people, elders, which doesn't always mean what we call physical human beings. It could be this earth, these trees. We carry so much emotional noise. That's a struggle of who we are as people, from children, of negative things that have happened to us. And so learning to let that go is myself. Here is my healer, is this forest, these trees who accepted my screaming, my crying, my rage, my anger. And as a First Nations person and as a residential school survivor, these are the places you need as a person. These are the places that will free you as a spirit that you are meant to be.
I used to row across there when I was a kid. A little 8-foot dinghy. Just to get away from Alert Bay for a day. I was 1949, where I spent 5.5 years. It was worse than in prison. I see some kids who were treated badly in there. They have a little torture room where they bring them and torture them. This is our northern brothers. They have a certain place, like a little house, where they say they're sick. They bring them to that house and torture them there. No food, nothing. And get beatings. And they didn't know why they were beaten. To think about what happened. To remember these things. It's painful sometimes to remember. But I learned to get tough. And we must go on to tell our kids and our grandkids, our great-grandkids.
There's a whole few generations of people who didn't grow up on Haida Gwaii. They had to grow up off-island in residential schools, and they had the Indian just beaten right out of them, right? And I mean, there's a lot of resistance there too. There's a lot of people who went to those residential schools who resisted and who continued to speak their languages and continued to sing their songs and pray in their own ways, and not, they weren't adhering to the assimilation policies that were set by the Canadian government. But at the same time, a lot of the older people who had to attend these schools, they came home and they were traumatized. They had been abused so severely that they've been traumatized, and many of them have been perpetuating that trauma within the lives of their children and sometimes even their grandchildren.
We're going back in time to when I was 5 years old, where I was right dead center wanting to go to school. But through time, like getting beaten up by a bunch of women started to change my life. It wasn't the same thing. It wasn't, oh, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it isn't that way. It isn't fun anymore. I can't go there. I want to, but I can't. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to speak my language. Just be careful. This is where her desk was. Her name was Mrs. Hawkins, and she wore green. She loved to wear green and wool. And she sat there, and she was a very short lady, but was high. And I was sitting here. about here, looking at her, 4 or 5 years old, 5 years old, curious about her. Seemed like a nice lady to me, and she was. Very nice lady. But once I looked back into the history of my own life, I realized what had caused all that was the animosity between families, neighbors, the animosity of alcohol, drugs, child molestation, all these bad things that happened in the village and throughout the village changed the actual reality of my education. For some reason, after that beating, changed my whole life. Like closed up, like a shell closing up again. No more. I don't want to go out there anymore. I don't like anything out there anymore. I don't want even to talk or want to learn much anymore. And so it broke my heart. Destroyed me almost. Almost killed me. So what do you do as a 5-year-old? Already you've been abused before you got here. Have you not understood the reason for it? Or what was going on? So then your life was a difficult road after that.
Awas Agui Taco Son Singan. That's a long time ago. We all spoke the same language. And that's our connection. That's our draw to the place like this. That's what we revert to when we really need help. We don't understand that. That's when we're in that turmoil. But as you go and move along, it really makes you accept that you are connected to this. These amazing places will help you heal. And it's you having that courage to voice that, to not hold back, and then you will be whole. You'll be free.
Roxanne, get your butt over here. Come. Are you a good girl?
No.
Nope. No, I'm a rebel, Mom. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I call myself her mom. Like, oh yeah, I'm a nerd. Or it's bad when people say like posers when you're not a poser. What bothers me is all these, I'm not gonna say any names, but people that are moving into community. And I don't know. I don't mean to be such a stick in the mud, but sometimes I feel like job opportunities or other things are in favor of other people. But maybe that's because maybe they've had more education, or they're applying for these jobs, or they're actually making an effort.
You mean people who grew up off island and then came here and then kind of
Yeah,
took a really good job that somebody else should be
yeah,
doing. Yeah,
exactly.
I know what you mean.
When my father dropped me off, my brother, what a sad day for both of us. You know, time has never been the same for both brother and I. It's like we were lost in the world without love. Things were taken away from us, our freedom, our language. That was the rough times. In the morning we had oats. And we looked in the oats, there was maggots in our oats. We ate it because we were hungry. And supper time we had beans with maggots and we ate it because we were hungry. When I got out, I told myself I'll never go hungry again. So I broke into all the stores and everybody to steal food. We were in and out of jail for 15 years. I knew it was a place I can eat now, is go to jail and eat, a roof over my head. A lot of the kids I knew then, most of them are passed on now. They were good friends. Most of them on drugs and alcohol. And suicide. The ones who were tortured in there and beaten.
So the reason I love this area so much is in the time of my depression, I actually came here to end my life. And I was 31 or 32. And I remember coming here, I wrote out everything for my family of why I was doing this. I did this drawing of myself, a self-portrait of that despair I was carrying, of that unbelievable depression. And I came here ready to give up my life, to take my life, to commit suicide. Creator or my guardians have always been there. They grabbed me and they said, "Burn." No. So many times I've heard that where they've saved me. When I came here to do what I planned, those were going through my head yet, and it would never keep quiet. So when I was saying those guardians said no, they said just write out just write it out. And so I wrote it, and in that time they said just scream, just let it go. And so I literally did what people is now a therapy of primal screaming, of letting go of that anger, that rage, that shame, that sorrow. This is where I was. These are the trees that saved me. This is the area that helped free me. You need to hear that anger. You need to physically hear all that sorrow, everything you held in and were never able to tell anybody. There's an ocean, there's the trees, there's that beautiful forest that you walk through that hold memories of times before, because we as Haidas have a belief in reincarnation, where we come back again and again and again. So we have these memories of places, of what to do, how to do it. So this is the reason I brought you through that forest to this area. This is what freed me of a dark spirit that held me hostage. Hey, hey, hey. Wala kila kusla kwa gamji. Wala hiya hayawe, wala hiya ho. Wala hiya ha. Yahweh, wala kila kuslakwa. We kwale ya
Prince of Wales was the name of the school.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Did Mary Hart go there?
Dude, I think she did. Both Gwalaga and Mary did.
And Carl.
And Carl too? Wow.
I think so.
Okay.
I used to date Carl.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was incredible.
Yeah?
Yeah, I missed him a lot.
Yeah, he was a pretty good guy.
Yeah, I dated him for about 6 months. Yeah, so about 2 weeks before he passed away, he broke up with me. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's hard to talk about too. It's like, but one thing's for sure is that there shouldn't be such a stigma towards it. Like it should be something that people should talk about and carry on with. But I don't know how like to address it or
I don't think anybody does.
deal with
'Cause you
it.
can have a workshop about it and be like, oh, we gotta stop this. Bring it to, I don't know, like, I've been to these announcements where they're just like talking about it in the communities and like Suicide Awareness Week or whatever, and like, does it change anything? Do you think it changes anything?
I don't know.
When we were younger, we were under the understanding that this liquor store was the busiest one per the size of the population in BC. I don't know if that still holds true today, but it sure seems like it the way that people kind of waste their lives and hang around uptown, and that's the way shit is. It's hard to admit all the shit we've been through. It's hard to deal with it face to face. It's hard to open up to that place of heart and mind where we can be serene inside and see our own identity. Because looking in the mirror is just too fucking hard. We feel far from the source, so force the words out of the mouth. Jaw drops when we see them speak the truth, because it never happens. And what's the use when everyone's laughing? Because they're too high on alcohol. But you know that's the way it is. And they put it here to poison the natives on purpose. They became addicted. Nothing else to do. Walk right through town, stumbling around. Drown you out, how about that? I lived with it, my mom lived with it. We all looked to some really dark shit. It's interfamily issue, that's what binds us all together. We all have that common thread, and we all ride it out. Nobody's free of addiction. Everybody's filled with it.
There's always that underlying commonality, I guess, for all of us, like an underlying pain, you know, that sits right there because a lot of us can't speak our own languages, you know, we can't have fluent conversations in our own mother tongues, and you know, we can't even pray in our own languages and things like that. For a lot of us, that's a really real struggle, you know, and it's something I've been struggling with for many years myself. And it's why I've come home, right? Because like my mom always told us, it's important, you know, and she always made sure that she really ingrained that into us, you know, it's important. And it's amazing to see that she had that ability. She had that sight and the will and the courage to share that with us, because her own mother was in residential school, you know. And so, I mean, it was literally beaten out of our nani, and then to go to these different generations, right, you can see how it could be really, really very difficult.
Forget about the rest of your family. Just who's there? I tell you, all you really know is the people that are there. Your family, just a memory being there. Knowing that you got a family out there, but you can't see them. We didn't have to be in there. I used to watch my daddy to bring 2 bags of fruit, one for myself, one for my brother. And we go downstairs to one apple and orange for before lunch. They said, no, you got nothing today. They gave it to somebody else. Had a lot of fights in the residential because we learned to fight. Then from prison to Skid Row, where I lived for 5 years. To survive it, you had to be tough to survive. It was painful nights. Seems so small here. Yeah, it was a big school. Seems so small now that it's gone. Memories are gone. Like it never happened.
The UN classified it as cultural genocide, residential school system. Every family's been touched. You know, we're going on 4 or 5 generations now for residential school. You know, the end effect of residential school. Why do they get away with killing our women? Why is there Highway 16 called a highway of tears? Successive police commissioners in Vancouver have called them missing prostitutes instead of human beings. That's the end effect of residential school. It still goes on. You know, one reporter said, people don't care. People of a certain generation don't care. You know, is that really true? Do we have to wait for older generations to die off before there's any justice? I don't think so. I have more hope than that.
Ahia
whole beach is filled with food. All kinds of seafood washes up here. All kinds of clams. They just nest here. Everybody comes here. There's canneries here. There's villages here. The origin story would even say that man was pulled out of the shell here. Or a shapeshifter. A raven. Taught man that there was light. Light is consciousness. Shapeshifter brought the light into the world. Taught man about how to live at one with the land.
I remember we stopped those logging trucks. They came and my dad said, we're standing on this bridge. We camped out there right in the middle of the road, and my dad parked the truck across so that nobody could cross through. And I remember him telling them, just turn around, go back, you're not going to work today. And I remember when he came back, we were all like, what did they say? Like all excited and whatever. And he was saying, they're mad, they're upset. They thought they were going to work, right? They thought they were going to get their jobs done, and they thought they were going to continue to log our territory here, and that isn't happening. So, we're putting a stop to that right now, right here today. It's funny, these little things that we can remember, but so clearly. Like my brother and I, we remember.
You take a trip out to Copper Bay, or you take a trip out to Gray Bay, and you see what companies get away with. And this all affects what I'm doing right here. And the quality of this.
I guess I grew up, my dad was a pretty natural guy. He was into picking plant medicines, he was into protecting the forest and, hunting and gathering. And at an early age I decided, boy, I just don't want to be like that guy, because of other personal beefs I had with him, I suppose. I was just really almost naive in my ways. And so I never really followed him, and I always wanted to learn this other thing. Computers, musical things.
You know, stuff that he probably just wouldn't have a very good time with. And I ended up doing that. You know, I know these things really well now, and that's okay. Because I still have lots of teachings that he brought to me. You know, I grew up in it. I couldn't escape it. And I think that was what really turned me off, was I couldn't escape it. So I started teaching myself all sorts of stuff, and now I'm teaching myself the other part that I kind of left out.
In the old days, we would selectively harvest out the trees that we wanted to build our villages and canoes, totem poles, and all the other uses of cedar. And for succeeding generations, for thousands of years, you know, people did the same thing. In order to build a house and repair a house, you had to go in and harvest your logs and take them out to the village, you know. So the forests were always kept in a good balance, and we're a part of that balance. Of course, all that, you know, is changed with colonization and a new value system coming in that is really not good for the land. It's not good for our minds and our soul either. It's this is coming into an area and literally just cutting down and destroying the whole entire forest to get a couple of trees that are worth some money to sell to an international market out there. All this waste wood that you see here, it's literally illegal to touch this stuff. It's supposed to just sit here and rot. If you want to come in here and cut firewood, you could be charged by the government of Canada for coming in here and stealing this wood. There's a lot more that can be done in a much better way.
This is a good angle here of this beautiful, right over on this side maybe. My dad was a fisherman first. He fished with his father and his uncles and helped build fishing boats. Years later, he decided he wanted to do a Haida canoe. He didn't really have a teacher to teach him how to carve it. He just had this innate knowledge inside of him. So he went into the forest and chose some trees, some cedar trees that would be suitable for canoe building, and he towed them actually himself with my uncle up the inlet and brought them here to this place, and he started building this canoe without a shed. And so the shed was kind of built around the canoes. He really started something that was important, and I think and we can build from that.
Over the past 100 years of industrial logging on Haida Gwaii, you can only imagine how many of these sites have been overrun by logging. You know, we always hear stories about them cutting off the ends of the canoes and putting them on a logging truck. Cutters will come in to, you know, buck them up into lengths for making into cedar shakes for siding and roofing and stuff like that. But completely destroying the sites and important pieces of historical information, especially as we come in to study the hull designs and go back into the forest to recreate these canoes. There was a lot of rules to follow in the old days for everything, and as well with canoes, you know, there was such things as celibacy that had to be a part of the canoe making process. You could not be with your wife or girlfriend during that time when you were working on a canoe. For the canoe may become jealous of that relationship and decide to split or crack or have some kind of defect overtake it. So everybody was kept at the highest honorable place within themselves while out in the forest. So these are literally Haida Gwaii love boats. They're not as being termed too often, which is that they are war canoes, objects of war, 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 as the mongering British have so called everything that we make, an object of war. We are not that.
Like in my lifetime, I've seen log barges go by almost daily, sometimes a few in a day lately, and sometimes in the nighttime, in the middle of the night. And sometimes it's really hard to, when we actually try not, we think about it, it's really hard on our spirit. It hurts us. It hurts us because that is not the Haida way of doing things. I had a mentor, a language teacher, Chinny Stephen Brown, and he was a huge mentor in our lives. He taught me that every little insect was not to be disrespected, because if you disrespected that insect, there would be repercussions. So I feel like if we don't stop this disrespect of the land and the oceans, that there will be repercussions for not just Haida people, but for all people, for humanity.
Yeah, this is a smaller operation, but it's right next to the highway, and a lot of them are. Sometimes they'll go the extra mile to leave a row of trees along so people who drive on the highway can't see it, and they're still under this illusion that things are all fine here. But then some of them, they do go all out and they just plow it all down. Why not, eh? Why bother trying to hide it? And I also know that a lot of this stuff that's fallen down, it isn't accounted for, because in the end they've got this quota, how much weight of trees they're taking. And they count how many trees they take out of here, but they have no way of knowing how much they just leave to rot. I think there's a lot of people who just want to live a good life. Even people here who come and clear out some land so they could build their little house, right? Bring their family here and they want to live here and have a good life without being exploited, without exploiting others, and to be fair with one another. And they're looking for that communal style living, just like old Haidas, eh? Where you might have all these rooms divided, but really life is never divided as we have it right now. And all this is division, right? We're dividing the forest away from its natural way of being. We're dividing the Haida people away from their natural way of being by imposing a system onto them, or imposing our system onto the forest. Like all these Vexar tubes, that's our system. The only real answer is to just stop it altogether.
Yeah, Dad's going to be really happy when this is steamed. It's going to be a great day. I hope that we can protect what's left here, and I hope we can start making sure that all the monumentals are protected so we can continue this part of our culture that's really super important to continue. I think that our dad, Morris White, really taught us how important that is. He taught us by doing. He was a Haida dancer and a carver and a canoe builder and a fisherman. And I think that we all had our lessons from him. He was a very fierce, proud man. And I think he instilled that pride into all of us to do our best and do well with whatever we worked on. And I think he did a really good job of that. But we do miss his strength as a person and as a powerful leader. But we will continue on.
This is actually just a little calm example of how violent our waters can be. This here can easily be turned into 30, 40, 50-foot waves in an instant. And the violence of the pull of that hind and undertow, that's everywhere on this ocean on Hecate Strait. And this is just literally part of our life. And it is very easy for you to lose your life here and to be fighting for your life on a boat.
This is all mountain, old volcanic strong back of mountains on the west side, and then 10,000 feet deep straight off the west coast. All the power and elements coming in from out there, and I believe that because of the deep trenches and the upwelling of the ocean currents can create some amazingly big and powerful waves. There is a passageway that takes you right through the center of the islands. So the Narrows goes right in through here, an amazing little channel that brings you all the ways out through here to the West Narrows. And then you get to the island of Joth, and the village of Joth is there.
It's really nice to be out in the ocean facing Japan, knowing it's 7,000 miles across, and here we are, the last rock off the mainland. You know, if you go north to the north end of Graham Island, it's only 35 miles to Forester Island in Alaska. So this is our beast.
All right.
And this boat is way more tippy than it looks. But don't worry, we got 90 horsepower. We're already broken down here. Oh, what is going on? It's all good. No one has to panic. Just give me a second here. Everything's fine. Oh, don't worry. This boat can't sink. It's self-bailing. It's just because I'm leaning on one side here. Oh, it is flooding. Okay, we don't want chaos. Sorry. Don't get your feet wet. One time I was on my way to Texada Island, and this is about 15 or 20 years ago. I actually thought the waves were going to gobble me up, and so I was in this tiny little 12-foot boat with a 9 horsepower, and I remember actually thinking that maybe there was such thing as God, because I needed to ask someone to save me. And so I remember promising God that if I ever made it to the shore in that boat, for that boat ride, that I would never do that again. You know what? I lied to God, if there's such a thing as God, because I've done that many times since, so the same kind of thing. We're back in action. Back in action. This has such a beautiful feeling to it here. Seems like this is as close to home as I've ever gotten since I can remember being on the planet. I don't know if you actually get to go home, to be home when you're alive, or if you have to wait until after that. But this is as close to the feeling of being at home I've ever been in my life.
We're at the mercy of Mother Nature and Captain Rob.
Yeah.
Slowly we are mastering the elements, or being mastered by them, I'm not sure.
Holy fuck, I thought the rock fell off. And it was that water coming up. Okay, I gotta get out of this. That scared me, actually. That did that. It's doing it again. Look at that.
This one was put up by our ancestors in Chaw village, where we're standing now. Our ancestors knew that man was, greater than nature itself and was a part of it, and so they didn't leave monuments that wouldn't disintegrate. We knew that eventually we would return to the earth as well. and all the things that we put here. Featherless flight above flora and fauna. We're gifted this image with moonlight upon us, cascading casket of past ways in water, flailing fishtails spawning downstream, constructing this conscious correct correspondence with creature creator who calls down from emptiness, silently whispering realms of the self. I sacrifice sound to speak the unseen. Filling this heartful, erupting volcano, exploding emotional love-lifted payload, I'm strangled by hugging and holding on deeply. The child left inside me reminds me I'm breathing. Force final wave, white capping parade. Collapse all our days past, fall through our knees. Relapse, reason, restraint, relax. Ready for more as we wash to the shore and dishevel this bivalve shell of our history. We learn them again with the ink of the devilfish, wrapping the pen, writing words, webbing nebulas. Restlessly climb, roots intertwined, fathomless patterns inducing the caverns of closed-off containment, now pouring this pavement. Mental projection, protecting investments, collecting our currency, washing the surface clean, managed belief. Monotheistic eye rising out of the distance, powering pistons, gripping the system's decisions. Effervescent skin is our blessing. Blossom blooming, blinded beginning, it's sinking or swimming in muskeg divinity. Tell me the feeling of doors and portals between mossy green gates, intraventricular serpent sermon, sea otter deceased. Tide recite this crosshatch slack pictographic homeland at hand.
Potlatch is our legislative assembly. It's where our elected leaders from our communities, from our families, they come together and they discuss important matters. Things to do with our economy, with the well-being of our economy, or whether there's been a conflict that needs to be resolved, right? You could potlatch for those kinds of things. Potlatching is for weddings, for memorials, for people who've passed on. Our prayers and our songs and our dances, right? They kind of, to us, they are truth, you know. They're a way to speak truth, and they're a way to set the tone, to set the atmosphere of the whole place, right?
I'm really blessed to be surrounded by people that create treasures for us to wear as we share what is our tradition. And we're very blessed as a people. As when I was younger, there was maybe 24 people that could sing and dance. Now it's literally from preschool to all our elders. Everybody sings now. It's incredible to have witnessed that growth and being a part of it. It's always amazing when you're able to get into what is you, what defines who you are as a person. And that's your culture, that's your home, and that's your people.
That's that boundary that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Keeps us separate, scared, and even to fucking announce what's going on inside of our minds for real.
Like the bar's open right now. If you point the camera that way, look, there's a potlatch going on, and there's a bar open. You know? Same thing with the other bar. Like, what does that tell you? They're ready. They're ready to fuck the nation over, man.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
What do you think are the chances of people skipping out on Potlatch tonight to go to the bar after?
50-50. I can say that with confidence. It's a 50-50 thing. I see the gyms start emptying once I hear the bars or liquor store is gonna close, so it's like, you know who's leaving, but you just respect who stays there is what I look at it now. Because I used to be one of those people who were leaving, and I seen the way it is, and I don't like it too much. A lot of people don't, but they just go with the flow of everything, and it's like, fucking go with the cultural flow of things again. It's so hard to live that way for people just because they're like caught up in the party lifestyle, just westernized themselves, fully colonized. It's fucked up. Like, the white man culture, where the heck did they come from? Like, I don't mean disrespect to everyone, but there are certain ones that are well remembered for fucking over nations, like abroad, not just the Haida Nation, not just like any nation along the northwest coast. It's along every single coast they touched. There's a legend or a fucking tale of a white man that totally wrecked things as he walked right through. That's the power of belief in oneself, man. It's fucking... How many Haidas do you think just could have ran this land just off belief alone and the legends that you're hearing about what Haidas did?
One thing I always wanted to find was the source of where all these things come from. I always wanted to find the source of the song and the source of the dance and the source of these words and the rambles and the chants and everything that happens.
Yeah.
Spiritually. Where does it come from? You know, it's
You
the
wanna
seed
do that?
planted. Yeah, I was wondering where it came from.
The White Raven. I feel like I'm a White Raven, but a lot of people are, because I look around and feel it, but no one ever is brave enough to show it, you know what I mean?
What's a white raven as opposed to a black raven?
A White Raven is someone who steals knowledge and gifts it to the world and asks for nothing in return. But the Black Raven asked for everything in return. And it made them both great, but at the end of the day, the White Raven asked too many questions, and he got the last answer he needed and spread it to the world.
I'm part of a residential school, what people call survivors, what I call thrivers, is that it's everything we are meant to be. Like I keep saying, it's everything we're meant to be. What it really means to me is the pride that we as people have in our children. And it makes me really proud as a person to witness what they can and will do and will carry on for us.
Living our life in balance with nature allows us to complete our life to the fullest, from beginning till end, just like our forests of Haida Gwaii. Hawa. Hawa ik lakidas, power of the shining heavens. Hawa to this earth. Hawa to the waters, to the air, to the fire, to the forests, and all life that's contained on this planet. To the sun and the moon and the stars. Hawa.
I would like to eventually, once I get to that level, I do want to be like a full-time Haida artist, teaching, taking on apprentices, like years and years from now. I got a long way to go still. But I'd also like to have like a home here. Like I do want to build a house and have a family. And particularly I want to like educate my children and maybe find another like First Nations person and kind of preserve that culture too. I think that's really important. I don't know, it's kind of weird too, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you can't control who you fall in love with. And I do want to have like a big family and kind of have like what my parents gave me. But I would like to incorporate a lot of culture into that too, like fishing or camping and all that good stuff. Yeah. That's my dream.
Supernatural creatures live under the hill that we just climbed. The hill's called Tao. Not a lot of people know what Tao is. Some people say it's food. Some people say it's grease. Some people say it's a high form of wealth. Some people say it's copper. It's traded as currency, it's used as protection. Copper, conductivity. The older brother is Tawastasan. It's up to Skatla Inlet. It's my name. Translated only as the older brother of Tao. If you look over there, that's the east coast of the island. Rose Spit. It's sinking right now. This beach is being swallowed by the shore. And the shore is receding back into the land. The west coast of the island is where we went and adventured around. Went to the village of Choth. Saw the mosquito pole. Still standing. We went past Choth into the west coast. And those mountains are coming out of the water. While this side is going down. So Haida Gwaii is so close to the edge of this plate. And the nature of the plate, it wants to flip. It's a powerful place. Right now we're standing on a really strong ley line. This place is so filled with energy. No wonder it would begin here.
Di Yalagung, Yaklanis Di Ijung. Outlage Studi Eskagung. Hoots Nai Studi Eskagung. Ayat Singe Huyagung. Ayat Di Gudne Lagung. Ayat Singe La Oslang.
Down